All right, so picture this. You're 17 years old, and it's Christmas Eve, 1971. You're flying over the Amazon rainforest with your mom,
Oh, wow.
but a massive thunderstorm hits.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and there's this blinding flash and deafening roar, and then nothing.
That's scary.
Yeah, you wake up injured and completely alone miles below in the jungle.
That's the incredible true story of Julianne Kopecky, a testament to, like, the resilience of the human spirit, you know? It's just amazing what she went through.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. It sounds like straight out of a movie.
It really does.
So you mentioned how resilient she was. What was it about her childhood that prepared her for this?
Well, her parents were both, like, famous zoologists.
Oh.
Yeah, and they studied the Amazon rainforest. Their research station was Panguana, and that's where Julianne grew up.
So, like, the rainforest was her playground.
Exactly. She learned to navigate the jungle, not just as a visitor, but like a local.
So what kind of skills did she learn that helped her survive?
I mean, tons. From a young age, she was immersed in the rainforest. She went on expeditions with her parents, learning to identify plants and animals, and it's all about the ecosystem.
It sounds like a unique childhood.
It really was. She learned things like how to build shelters, find water, even basic first aid.
Those are pretty handy skills.
Absolutely. And those skills became vital for her survival after the crash.
Now let's talk about the flight itself. Did anything about the airline or the flight foreshadow what was going to happen?
Well, the airline Lanza had a bad reputation. They were known for not being safe and had a history of crashes.
Oh, wow. Not a good sign.
Yeah, and this flight Julian was on was using their last operational aircraft. And get this, it was originally designed for deserts. Pretty concerning considering they were flying over a rainforest near the Andes Mountains.
Desert plane in a rainforest?
Yeah.
That doesn't sound good at all.
Yeah, and Julian's father, he knew all this and he really didn't want them to fly Lanza. He understood the risks, you know,
Of course.
but they didn't listen.
Oh, man, that's rough.
So they board the plane, and about 30 minutes in, a huge thunderstorm hits.
Can you imagine? Must have been chaotic.
Luggage flying, passengers panicking, wind and rain just hammering the plane.
So what happened?
And then, bam, a lightning bolt hits the right wing.
Didn't planes back then have lightning protection?
Well, not like they do now. This lightning strike ripped the plane apart midair. Julianne remembers a flash of white, the plane going down, and her mom just calmly saying, "Now it's all over."
Wow, that's chilling.
It really is.
So then what happened to Julianne during the fall?
This is crazy. Julianne was still strapped to her seat, which was attached to a row of seats. The row began to spiral down, and it actually created some wind resistance. She fell over 2 miles and somehow survived.
2 miles. That sounds impossible to survive.
I know, right? It's unbelievable. The rainforest canopy cushioned her fall. It's amazing she's alive.
Wow. So after a fall like that, what condition was she in?
Well, she was disoriented and hurt, of course, but for a 2-mile fall, her injuries were surprisingly minor. She had a concussion, broken collarbone, cuts, and a ruptured knee ligament.
It's hard to believe those were her only injuries. The rainforest saved her.
Yeah, but surviving the fall was just the start of her ordeal. She was now alone, injured, and in the middle of the Amazon. That's where her real fight for survival began. So can you imagine waking up after all that? I mean, surrounded by the jungle, the humidity, the vastness of it all.
It would be completely overwhelming, especially with the concussion and all those injuries.
Exactly. It's a sensory overload, plus the disorientation and pain. It's a lot to process. But Julianne, she remembered her parents' lessons.
Right, they taught her how to survive.
Yeah, and she knew water was the first priority.
So she didn't panic.
No, she knew dehydration would be fatal in that heat, so she started by licking moisture from leaves, until she could find a stream.
Wow, that's pretty resourceful.
It is. She was able to think clearly and prioritize, even when injured and alone. But it wasn't just the physical challenges,
Of course, she must have been dealing with some intense psychological stuff, too.
Yeah, the isolation, the fear, the uncertainty about her mom. It's a lot for anyone, let alone a teenager.
Right.
And she actually experienced some really vivid hallucinations.
Hallucinations.
Really? Yeah, it's actually common with isolation and trauma.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so those hallucinations, they kind of became her reality, something else she had to deal with on top of everything else.
So how did she stay focused with all that going on?
Well, what's amazing is that through all those challenges, she never lost hope. She truly believed that there might be other survivors out there, even when there wasn't much evidence.
It's incredible that she could hold on to that hope in that situation.
Yeah, and that hope fueled her determination to keep going and searching.
So she's battling the elements, injuries, psychological stuff. Were there other dangers she encountered?
Oh yeah, the Amazon rainforest is full of creatures, and some of them are not so friendly.
Right.
Like early on, she had this terrifying encounter with a Goliath bird-eater spider.
A Goliath bird eater. What is that?
Basically, it's the largest tarantula in the world, and they actually eat birds.
Oh, wow. That sounds terrifying.
Yeah, they have inch-long fangs and venom.
Huh.
I mean, most people would run the other way.
So how did she get away from it?
Again, her parents had taught her about animal behavior. She knew sudden movements would provoke it, so she slowly and carefully backed away.
Wow. She was lucky she knew that.
Right. And that wasn't the only close call. She was wading through a river one time and came face to face with a mother caiman and her babies.
A caiman. Like an alligator.
Similar, but smaller and way more aggressive.
Yikes, those are dangerous too.
Yeah, powerful jaws and sharp teeth. Really dangerous.
So how did she escape that one?
She knew that making noise would provoke the mother, so she just slowly and quietly slid back into the deeper part of the river.
She's really using her knowledge of animals to survive.
She was. It's like she was playing a dangerous game of chess with the jungle.
So in all this, did she ever find any signs of civilization?
Well, on day 10, she was floating downriver, exhausted, starting to lose hope. And then she saw a small boat tied to a tree.
A boat. Oh, that must have given her some hope.
It did. It meant people had been there and civilization wasn't too far. She could have taken it, tried to navigate the river herself. But here's the thing about Julianne.
What do you mean?
Even then, she was thinking about others. She thought, what if someone else needs this more than me? She didn't want to risk someone else's survival.
Wow. That's pretty selfless considering her situation.
I know, right? So instead of taking the boat, she followed the path leading away from the river, and that's how she found a small shack. A tambo, they call it.
What's a tembo?
It's basically a simple shelter, like a thatched roof on poles. Locals use it to store supplies or rest during long journeys.
Oh, okay, so she was getting closer to people.
Yeah, but when she got there, it was abandoned. But she did find something important. Can of gasoline?
Gasoline. What good would that be?
Well, by this point, she had a deep cut on her arm that was badly infected. Maggots were in the wound.
Ugh, that's awful.
It was a horrible situation, and she had to do something drastic. So get this, she poured the gasoline onto the wound.
What? To get the maggots out?
Yeah, to flush them out and disinfect it. I mean, it was incredibly painful, but she knew it had to be done.
Wow, that's both tough and really smart.
It was. It was a matter of survival. She spent another night there, hoping someone would come. And on the 11th day, just as her strength was fading, she heard voices.
Oh, she must have been so relieved.
She was. It was 3 Peruvian forest workers, and they just happened to stumble upon the tambo.
Oh, wow, just by chance.
Yeah, pure luck. They were shocked to find her there after everything. They took care of her, gave her food and water, treated her wounds, they saved her.
That's amazing. After 11 days to be found like that, it's a miracle.
It really is. They took her by boat downriver to a village so she could get proper medical attention.
But what about her mom? Do they know what happened to her?
Sadly, at first, they thought Julianne was the only survivor. They hadn't found the crash site yet. Later, when they did find it, they realized the full extent of the tragedy.
So what happened at the crash site?
17 passengers, including Julianne's mom, had actually survived the initial impact. But because of their injuries and the remote location, they all died shortly after.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
It is. To know her mom survived the fall but didn't make it, it adds a whole other layer to Julianne's story.
It really shows how fragile life is. But let's go back to Julianne. What happened after she was rescued? She must needed a lot of medical care.
Yeah, the forest workers took her to this small town called Terna Vista, and then she had to take another flight, can you believe that, to a bigger city, Pucallpa, for more specialized treatment.
Another flight. That must have been terrifying for her after all that.
It was, understandably. She was really scared to fly again, but she knew she needed the medical attention.
Makes sense. But how did she cope with the trauma and emotional scars of the crash?
At first, she tried to go back to normal life. Went back to school in Lima, hoping to connect with friends, you know?
Yeah, to find some normalcy.
But then the media frenzy hit, and it made it almost impossible to find peace.
Oh, right, the media. I can imagine how intense that must have been.
Oh, it was crazy. They hounded her constantly. Interviews, photographs, anything to feed the public's hunger for a dramatic story.
Wow, they were really exploiting her story.
Yeah, and some of them even made up stuff, like saying she survived by eating a Christmas cake from the wreckage or that she woke up under a pile of bodies.
Oh, come on, that's awful. Making up details like that.
I know. And then some even accused her of abandoning other survivors at the crash site, which we know isn't true.
It's just cruel to make up stuff like that.
It was really tough for her. So, to escape it all, her father sent her to live with her grandmother and aunt in Germany.
That makes sense, to get away from all that attention.
Yeah, it gave her space to breathe and process everything away from the media. But it also added another layer of complexity, you know? Being sent away, even though it was meant to help, made her feel isolated from her home, her friends, everything familiar.
It's a tough balance. Trying to heal, but also feeling isolated.
It is, and her relationship with her father, which was already strained, became even more difficult.
In what way?
She felt he had this sadness and resentment, maybe survivor's guilt. It made it hard for them to connect emotionally.
It's so sad how trauma can affect relationships like that.
It really is. But eventually, about a decade after the crash, she returned to the Amazon.
She did. She went back.
Yeah, while studying for her doctorate in biology, she had the chance to go back to Panguana for research on bats.
Wow, that must have been a difficult decision.
It was, but it was a chance to reconnect with her parents' legacy and to maybe find some peace in the place that brought her so much pain.
It's like turning pain into purpose. What was it like for her to be back at Panguana?
It was really important for her. She spent 18 months there doing her research and being surrounded by the rainforest's beauty and wonder. She realized that she wanted to dedicate her life to her parents' work, to protect the Amazon.
That's incredible, to find that purpose after everything she went through.
And it wasn't just about the science, it was about facing her past. She even agreed to go back to the crash site with the filmmaker, Werner Herzog, for his documentary, Wings of Hope.
Wait, Werner Herzog, the famous director?
Yes, he was supposed to be on that flight with Julianne and her mom, but he changed his plans at the last minute.
Wow, what a twist of fate.
It is. He was deeply moved by Julianne's story and wanted to capture it on film.
So what was it like for her to go back to the crash site?
It was very emotional for her, reliving everything, confronting her past. In the documentary, you see her retracing her steps, walking through the jungle, going back to the river, the Tambo, the place where she fell from the sky.
Sounds like a powerful film.
It is. It's about her journey of healing and acceptance. So she went back to the rainforest, faced her past, embraced her parents' legacy. But what about her life since then?
Yeah, what has she been up to?
She's actually built a really remarkable life. She got married. She goes by Julianne Diller now. She's a well-known zoologist specializing in bats. Works as a librarian at the Bavarian State Collection of Zoology in Munich, Germany.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, and she's still deeply connected to the Amazon, involved with Panguana, making sure it grows and thrives.
That's amazing. It's become a world-renowned research facility.
It has. And get this, she still flies regularly for work to visit Panguana all over.
Wait, she still flies
Yeah.
after surviving a plane crash.
I know, right? It just shows that she refuses to let fear control her life. She's facing her fears, doing the work she loves, and advocating for the Amazon.
It's really inspiring.
It is. There's this quote from her that I really like. She said, "The jungle caught me. It saved me. It was not its fault that I landed here."
That's a beautiful way to look at it. She doesn't blame the rainforest. She sees it as a force that both challenged her and saved her.
Exactly. Her story shows us that even in the face of terrible loss and suffering, there's always hope for healing, growth, and finding purpose in the most unexpected places.
It's amazing, how she turned that trauma into strength.
Mm.
And she's dedicated her life to protecting this incredible ecosystem. What gets me is how her upbringing really helped her survive. It wasn't just luck, it was the skills and knowledge from her parents, their connection to nature that really saved her.
Absolutely. They gave her this deep respect for the rainforest, understanding how complex and dangerous it can be.
Yeah.
They taught her to be a part of it, to understand its rhythms, how to adapt. Those lessons, they were her lifeline.
Makes you think about how important it is for us to connect with nature.
It does.
Even just small experiences can foster respect and appreciation for the environment.
You're right. And it shows the power of mentorship, too, passing on knowledge and skills. Julianne's story, it's really a testament to her parents' guidance. That unwavering belief in understanding and protecting the natural world.
Yeah.
Their legacy lives on, not just in her scientific work, but in how dedicated she is to preserving the rainforest.
And it goes beyond her family, too. Through her research, her book, Herzog's documentary,
Yeah.
she shared her story, inspiring so many people with her resilience and determination.
Her story gives us hope, Even in the darkest times, we can endure, find a way to heal, grow, and find meaning.
It's really about the power of human resilience. Adapting, learning, overcoming huge challenges.
It is.
One thing that really stands out to me is Julianne's composure. She could think clearly and act, even while injured and alone.
It's remarkable.
It's like our minds can focus on survival. We find strength we didn't even know we had.
We all have this capacity for resilience, for solving problems, for survival, and Julian's story shows that.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into her journey, what are some key takeaways for our listeners? What can we learn from her?
Well, it makes you think about your own sources of strength,
Yeah.
your own resilience. We all face obstacles in life, right?
Yeah.
Physical, emotional, whatever.
Of course.
But Julianne's story, it reminds us that we have what it takes to get through those challenges, to adapt, learn, and come out stronger.
It also makes me think about being prepared. Maybe not for a plane crash, but for those unexpected things that happen,
Right.
like learning practical skills, being resilient, connecting with nature.
It all helps us face the unknown.
And, you know, maybe the most important thing is that we should never give up hope.
Never.
Even when things are really tough, we can find a way through.
I can.
Discover that inner strength and come out changed for the better.
That's true.
Julianne Kopicki's story is truly captivating. It shows the human spirit's ability to overcome anything. If you want to learn more, we highly recommend her book, When I Fell from the Sky. It's a personal account of her incredible experience. As you go about your day, think about this. What can we learn from Julianne's story? What inner strength can we tap into to get through tough times and come out stronger? Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.